everyone, and welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charity.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we are going to be talking about an upcoming event within our own industry, which will be International Podcast Day. And so I think it'd be nice to take our listeners back on a little bit of an origin story of how the Double Stuff came to be and how we've been managing. Even though we just started just a few months ago, it feels like we've been doing it forever.
It's true. Yeah.
It is kind of weird. Amazing how time works.
Yeah, it's definitely become a huge part of my life. And I know it's been a huge part of yours as well. I don't have as good of memory as you do, Sarah. So take us back to the beginning of when we started thinking, hey, we're all producers. There's this thing out there called podcasts.
Yeah.
What would happen if we threw our hats in the ring?
Yeah, well, it's something that I think off and on the four of us were kind of talking about off and on during last year, during most of 2019. But I think it wasn't until maybe the end, close to like Christmas 2019. And me and Alan had some kind of conversation after one of the productions that we did. And I was handing him back some keys. And we had this random conversation. And then at the end, Alan says something along the lines like, and that's why I don't trust people who don't have sideburns or something along those lines. It was really random. And we realized, oh my gosh, that was a left field remark based on what we talked about before. We need to have this in audio form. So that way we can keep tabs of how weird our conversations get.
And I think it was also because it was a very simple question that you had asked me, and it took me 15 minutes to answer it.
Yeah. Well, one thing we're good at is not coming to a direct answer when we're asked.
Trailing a lot.
But that's the best part of a podcast is an audio form of a rabbit trail
that
journey. Lasts 20 to 30 minutes.
That's right.
It seemed to start off most like a joke because we've had many conversations like that throughout our times of working together, and it was like, wouldn't it be funny if ... like if we had a podcast or a video or something? And so now we just turned our what if into a reality, which is
and I think that's key because I think there's a lot of other people out there that are like us, that are like-minded, and they have a good idea for we should do a podcast, but then they never get around to doing it. And we had actually had conversations off and on, either together as a group or individually, but we never really acted on it. And we just said, hey, you know what? Let's just do this.
Yeah. And it kind of worked out for you, Dan, because you had said you have done podcasts in the past. So you were the one, you actually came in with more experience than the three of us, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've just done, like video game podcasts. I did one about Batman. I did one about Star Wars with a group of people from all over the country. And, they went well, but it's one of those things where when you have a lot of people or even multiple people, it's schedules are hard to kind of line up. So you end up either doing what we do and just making sure that it happens, or people just start dropping off, and then you don't keep it going, which is what happened to all my other runs in the past.
Well, that actually leads me to a question, something that I was wondering in the time that we started this back in January to now, we're in September. What are some things that we have learned? So, for example, with Dan, he's recently moved to a different state. So we've got a time difference. We have different schedules. So we've had to figure out how to still make this work. So what are some things that each of us have learned in the process of making this podcast?
Well, I'll lead out. So one of the things that I was pretty sure that I was good for were the recording. I felt like I had something to contribute to the conversation, and I was solid on that. But that's probably as far as I would go within podcasting. And then little by little, as far as responsibilities just in keeping the show running, more gets tacked on, or sometimes it gets subtracted. It goes back and forth. I think one of the keys to our being able to keep the wheels on the track and keep the train moving forward is the tenacity that all of us have to make sure if something can't be met, that we pick up the slack for somebody else, or we just work well together. I think
so
that
having a good team is essential for having a good podcast.
And
or any
my
project.
goodness, yes.
Yes, and just as producers, all four of us have the mindset, I don't care how it gets done, but it's going to get done.
Yeah.
We just all have the mindset of we've committed our time and our passion to this project, and so it's going to happen. And I don't think that any one of us, Dan, myself, you, I'm saying you as I'm pointing to a listener, Charity or Sarah, I don't think any one of us would allow for this to just fall off the rails just haphazardly. I mean, there would have
Yeah.
to be a pretty serious reason as to why that this should stop, because I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
And
I have literally spent. I've used a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and that's no exaggeration. Working on this this podcast, and I think it's just because of the timing of it. The timing of it we didn't expect to happen for the obvious reasons,
right.
and because we were just wanting to do it because we wanted to make people laugh, which is great because that's one of the main things I wanted to do for this podcast.
Sure.
But of course, when COVID happened and the whole world just took a huge change, a shift, it kind of, the timing, because we were going to do it on April Fool's Day, which we did, but the thing is that it brought on a different dynamic to the podcast versus just, hey, we're just going to do this for the heck of it. Like, at least for me, I realized, okay, we're in a really not good situation right now, so we need to make people laugh. Like,
So it gave it a deeper meaning versus, hey, we're just doing something for fun.
Yeah, it turned more of just a cute side project to like, I really want this to be good because there are people out there that need a legit laugh, and we are the people that are going to give it. And so I've taken that very seriously because I've always did this whole thing about I take comedy seriously. Like, this is one of those where it has, and that's a big reason why, at least at this point in time, I can't let it go.
Sure.
Because there's people's lives on the line. And I think if we were to end it, at least at this point in time, that wouldn't be good for some of the regular listeners that we have and some potential new ones.
That's true. Well,
so,
and then going off the seriousness too, being a father of two small girls that they got two artists as parents, so we're constantly starting projects. One of the things that I take seriously from this is to show them that you can start something and you see it through, and then you see where it goes. You don't know. I mean, where we are here in September from where we were in January. I think that we've just as a group we've podcasting is in itself a type of media that everybody's still trying to figure out. Do you have a long podcast? Do you have a short podcast? Is it controlled by the whims of the podcasters, or is it directed through the suggestions and comments of the listeners? There's all kinds of things that kind of go to it. But as a parent of two girls that are deeply interested in creating things, I want to make sure that they know that you can create something from literally nothing with just an idea and borrowed equipment and have something of substance.
I am proud of ourselves that, with the knowledge that we have, we've been able to sort of create a brand for ourselves with using what we have. And I know that sometimes that's a phrase that's just like you're picking up scraps and you're trying to make a beautiful thing out of it. But
we literally are.
Yeah, the fact that we don't have our own studio and we don't have a lot of our own equipment and we're trying to piece this together, we've created we're in series 3. We've created a lot of content out of almost nothing, which is really cool.
Absolutely. Well, and part of this and just knowing what podcasting is about, we had to get inspired. We had to learn what from it was. So, Dan, I'm going to start with you. Before the Double Stuff, which is obviously the best podcast ever.
Hey, we're biased, but it's also true. It's very true.
Dan, what was a podcast or a podcaster, or perhaps more than one podcast that really kind of jumped out at you and that you were possibly subscribing to before you started to throw your hat in the ring?
Yeah. So when I started really listening to podcasts, I used to install satellite dishes for DirecTV. So I was on the road a lot. And it was right around the time where Kevin Smith started doing a lot of podcasts, who I just enjoy as a director. And I like his humor. So I started listening to a lot of his podcasts. And then that led into podcasts about hobbies that I like. So for example, just like IGN, it's a video game website. They do a lot of different video game podcasts. So that kind of got me interested in like, okay, that's something that I would like to try to do. Would be like, can I talk about these same hobbies like I hear other people talking about them? So Kevin Smith for sure. Mark Maron was another one that I listened to a lot. He just does like an interview format style podcast. And then one other one that kind of really got me kind of back into it from being just a listener, even after I started a few of my own, was shows like Serial by like it's not really by NPR, but it's through like NPR, and just that kind of the things that you can do, the storytelling that you can do, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, through the audio format. So that's where my inspiration sort of comes from.
Very good. How about you, Charity?
Well, one of the things that I like, which anyone that knows me and some of the listeners know as well, I love British programming. So I love all the Masterpiece and British comedies, radio shows and stuff. And so I like to listen to the Masterpiece podcast, and they'll have, a lot of the actors, if they're doing like a new show or something, they'll have them talk about their experience on set and some of the behind the scenes stuff. And because I want to work on a production like that, or a Masterpiece production, like that just intrigues me. And I love getting to know the characters. You feel like you get to know them on a personal level. And so one that I listened to earlier was from Grantchester, and it was interviewing Tom Brittany and talking about, his role as playing the new vicar, taking James Norton's place. And so he was talking about the role of not just being the new guy, it was him actually having the season to himself now, and talking about how that felt and how he related to the character itself, and how he knew some of the other characters from other productions.
Cool.
So I love behind the scenes stuff. And so that's the kind of stuff that I'm sort of drawn to.
Okay. Very good. How about you, Sarah? Any podcasts that you used to follow and don't anymore because you're a podcaster now?
Yeah, I'm too good for all of that. For me, it's kind of like what we talked about in our very first episode of Double Stuff, but a lot of my inspiration, because of the stuff I like, is very historical. Mm-hmm. And so basically a podcast is just a slight change of radio.
Okay.
It's basically a digital form of radio. And I enjoy listening to a lot of OTR, which is old time radio. So I like listening to what used to be the main form of entertainment before television, from like the 30s, 40s, 50s, So I enjoyed, listening to Fibber, McGee, and Molly, which is a...
Sorry.
It's just, I know, trying to describe it. It's basically this old husband and wife. The guy, he's called Fibber because he lies or he stretches the truth a lot. And it's just dealing with the mishaps that happen with this couple. But it's a very, very funny series that lasted for 20 years, from like 1930s to the mid 50s. But what I like about old time radio is that, one, I like the thought of having a live audience. Not that we have that here. Who knows in the future. But I just like the scripted stuff, kind of like what Dan was talking about with the podcast. I like that it's scripted. I like that it's funny, because I always go for something humorous. And of course, old time radio did a lot of those old school sound effects, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something I would still like to do, like a scripted comedic series using sound effects, maybe have a live audience. I can get that initial laughter kind of thing. So this podcast has given me a bit of an outlet, doing something like that. So my podcast from the 1930s, if that was a thing, definitely I would recommend Fibber, McGee, and Molly, George Burns and Gracie Allen.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. And I would definitely recommend the Jack Benny Program and Bob Hope.
Okay.
Right. Actually, since you made the transition from scripted shows, and had me thinking of what a perfect medium this is, because of the pandemic that we're in. A lot of TV programs had to change their format completely, but this is sort of perfect for social distancing. I mean, Dan is championing social distancing right now. He's in a different state,
true.
Yeah, there's no one that can social distance as far as Dan can.
But we can still do the podcast, still do the program, and I think it was John Finnemore's blog. He was talking about how he likes doing radio shows because it's the cheapest form of doing whatever you want,
True.
So you're leaving it up to the listener to engage and everything. So like right now I can say, oh, we're in England and we're about to get on the London Eye. Well, obviously we're not there, but if you have
don't tell them that we actually are. Gosh.
But if you have a picture of it, if we set the scene, you could totally picture yourself there, and we don't have to have a set, we don't have to have a crew, whatever. We're just telling them what it is, and it's a cheap way of traveling, I guess, through radio.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of the opposite as far as what I was looking for in podcasts and still do. I like the fly on the wall approach. And so a lot of the podcasts that I would listen to would be very much just free flowing thought, much like what we do here, where you have a topic and you talk about it. So a lot of Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, a lot of comedians actually, their ability to well, that's part of their job too, is to be able to just pontificate whatever it is that.
Ooh, look at Alan using words.
What?
I mean, word of the day, boys and girls.
Pontificate.
Well, that's what they do, and they're very, very good at it, and it's very entertaining. But there have been some. I do like history, and there are some very good orators that of history. Dan Carlin with his hardcore history is amazing, and I've learned so much about history through Dan Carlin. Malcolm Gladwell's very good through his revisionist history about exploring how history changes over time, and facts can be that were thought true at the time might not have happened or might have been skewed. Recollections and memories change. I do enjoy the way that they, Dan Carlin and especially Malcolm Gladwell, how they, presented almost like a journalist. Dan Carlin, his history being through radio, and then Malcolm Gladwell, his history being through print journalists, and how they bring it their expertise and background into the podcast genre is really fresh. Like kind of like what we were talking about. Where do you fit in? One, Dan Carlin has 3 hour-long podcasts. Malcolm Gladwell keeps them nice and tidy at about a half an hour, something that's easily digestible. So, I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about podcasts is you're not regulated to an industry standard that that you have to go by in like a formula to be able to sell ads, to be able to keep things going. I mean,
yeah, that's one thing that I'd say about like that too, is that if you're listening to podcasts or you're searching for podcasts and you don't see anything out there that you're really like looking for, you can make it. I mean, this media doesn't have the gatekeepers that a lot of other medias do. You don't have to get it approved. You don't have to focus test it, among people. And I think the biggest thing is finding a group of people, if you're going to do it as a group, that care enough, that don't just want to be voices on the microphone, that want to actually be participants, because that can be the hardest thing. Is like, if you have a group of people who are all care about the quality, that makes it really easy. That makes it really well done. If you're just like the lone person, you're just finding people who want to be on the microphone, it makes it a lot difficult. And that's why I think what we've done has actually worked out really well, is because we all care.
Oh, that was so sweet.
It was.
Okay, well, along those lines, it was artificially flavored, but I like pure sugar, so I thought it was very sweet. So I'll go ahead and bring this question back to you, Dan. I personally like listening to our podcast because it actually legit does make me laugh, because I kind of forget about some of the stuff we say after a while.
I can hear her in the room, just like door shut and everything, just that little, you just a little high-pitched laugh, just a tiny laugh.
That one right there.
Yeah, that one right there. So I'll start it with you, Dan. If you were not part of the podcast, would you listen to us? Would you listen to what we had to say and think we were legit funny?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but I listen to quite a variety of different kinds of podcasts, and what we're doing definitely fits into like one of those like sort of categories. So yeah, I definitely would. I really enjoy. I enjoy doing the podcast, and I enjoy listening to it, even though I listen to it over and over again in the edit.
Yeah,
because he's the editor.
He has to. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the editor's curse, which is by the time everybody hears it for the first time and loves it, you're already way done with it and never want to hear it again.
You can quote it probably.
Yeah.
You know when the moment's going to happen.
Well, what's even nice is that he has to edit hearing my laughs. It's like, like that one now. I gave that just for you, Dan, so that when you have to edit that, you have to hear me. You have to hear me do that 3 times in a row. So, but same question. Yeah, same question for you, Alan. Would you listen to us?
Big time. Well, we do. So every Wednesday night at dinner, we bring out the Bluetooth speaker, and
I think that
we gather
is so
around.
Cute.
And I say, girls, here we go. Here we go. Let's get it started. And everybody does the dance when the clarinet starts or the oboe start.
There's a dance.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
can we please get a video of
Yes,
this?
let's get a video of this,
I want to see the family,
Absolutely.
the Atha family dance to the theme song.
That's right. And then we have dinner while we're listening to our show. And then by the time dinner's done, usually the show's done and it's off to bed.
You guys eat slow.
No, he eats at a normal pace. I'm always left by myself at the table.
Well,
I'm trying to do better.
Eat for 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how long our podcast is.
You know what? I will say that as all new parents know, you learn to wolf down your food as quickly as possible. And it's taken me probably about 10 years to slow that down. But
is that so you can eat before the baby starts crying?
Or there's something that's going to happen, and you just got to get up and deal with it. Something eventually is going to interrupt it, so you just wolf it down. Anyway,
How
about you?
Eating back when I was an EMT.
Oh yeah, exactly the same thing.
I forget you have such a variety of past jobs, Dan. You're like a jack of all trades.
Just Dan is more than just Dan.
That's true.
I think he's the most interesting out of all of us. Probably
he could save and can and has saved lives.
Oh, that's true.
He is a superhero. Super Dan. Oh, now he's getting shy.
I only saved one. Most of them died.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm sorry. EMT
Here's
people.
the line, and you crossed it.
I didn't say I was a good EMT.
I mean, I guess that's why you're not working there anymore. So.
Dan, we're coming up on your annual review. It's not looking too good. What?
So I would listen if I wasn't in it. So I will explain. So Sarah does most of our little edits, our little clips and stuff. And I love those and those are funny. But listening to yourself, I get embarrassed if I'm in it. So if it was just you guys doing a thing, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is great. Whenever I hear myself, I sound different than how I sound in my ears.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, is that me? And it makes me think back. I know we discussed this in the previous episode, but when Sarah and I made our cassette tape radio show,
yes,
that moment of embarrassment when my mom found our cassette tape, that's how I feel when I hear my voice and I just kind of cringe. But so as long as I'm not talking, yeah, I'm golden.
Now your cassette tape is all over social media.
Basically.
But I'll finish off with this. I've been surprised the number of people that have actually talked to me, at least locally, that has said they've really enjoyed our show.
That's true.
One of Charity's friends, she's a very, very avid listener since show 1, and she said that our series helped her get through the whole COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's
my other friend likes to listen while she's grocery shopping. She says it helps her focus so that she doesn't grab a bunch of junk food. So she'll go into the grocery store and turn on the episode and kind of go and shop. So
again, that's highly ironic because our stuff is so all over the place. You would think, how would you concentrate on buying that gallon of milk? Or
maybe we inspire her. She's like, I can't be that chaotic. Let me go with my list.
That's possible. That's entirely possible.
And we also had a guy that earlier this year, he was remodeling his bathroom. And he binged all of our episodes while remodeling his bathroom. So
his bathroom looks great now. So you're welcome.
You're welcome.
And that's what podcasts do. And I'm so happy that we took the risk.
Yeah.
We took the plunge, and we've created something. And I'm, as long as everybody else is willing, let's keep going. So everybody that's out there that likes double stuff, let us know what your story is if you've started a podcast. And don't forget that International Podcast Day is coming up, and be sure to show your support. And with that, we'll have to sign off for now.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. You can find other episodes on doublestuffpod.com or on your favorite podcast apps. You can also participate in the fun on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Double Stuff Podcast and on Twitter at Double Stuff P. That's the letter P.